Welcome, everybody, to the A Little Less Fear podcast. I'm your host for the show, Dr. Lino Martinez. Oh, yeah. Welcome back, everybody, to A Little Less Fear podcast. Today, I would like to introduce Elan Zelenka. She's a sexual empowerment coach who specializes in helping women embody their most confident selves in the bedroom, business, and in life. While she works with clients to cultivate a deeper sense of safety and inner peace, she also focuses on helping them explore their edges to uncover and discover their true personal power. Her transformational work will take you through a journey of releasing shame and insecurities to living a full life of pleasure, genuine connection, and self-love. I love these topics. Welcome to A Little Less Fear topic, Elan.
Yay. Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, Elan, so before we get into your business here and how you're changing people's lives, I'd like to know about your journey. Like, what got you to where you're at today?
Yeah, I've been on a nice little journey and very unexpected. So I grew up as an only child, and I grew up in a very religious household. So with a combination of those things, my parents also not having great communication, there was just a lot of hush-hush in our family dynamic, in my life. I didn't really know how to handle conflict resolution at all. It was just, you just don't talk about things. And as I grew up in my relationship and sexual journey, I lost my virginity when I was 15 and a half. And it just caused so much shame for me because on one hand, I was really in love with my partner at the time. And then it was just so conflicting because all I knew was that that's a huge no-no in the religion I was in, and I'm gonna burn in hell, or who knows what's gonna happen. Yeah. And so that really sat very heavily in my body and in my system for years after, even though it was something that I thought, okay, well, this is kind of like a natural process. This is what happens in life, right? It still was the conditioning was there of this is not okay and you did something wrong. So that really was the whole context and setup to sex and relationships for me. Of course, going back to the lack of communication, I didn't ever get the birds and the bees talk. So it was learn as you go sort of thing, and no education around it. So fast forward into my 20s, I went from relationship to relationship, and I kept coming across a problem. And that problem was that each partner that I was with happened to have intimacy issues. And I couldn't figure out, why do I keep getting in relationships where the other person has all of these issues going on and they can't be transparent with me? And I find out that they are, lying behind my back or even cheating or, whatever. And I started to recognize, oh my gosh, I'm the one that has the intimacy issues here. And they're just mirroring what's already going on within me.
Well, how did you find that out? Because that takes a lot of self-reflection. And you said you were like in your 20s when you figured this out?
Yes, I was in my 20s. Wow. A few different factors. One, I started getting into personal development. And I, through personal development and growth, the first step is awareness. It's awareness of what's going on in your life. What are the results, the current results that are happening, and what's happening, just the awareness of like, is this me? or is this another person?
Yeah.
How did we get here? And so, yeah, and then I entered into my current relationship with my current partner, and that really rocked my entire world because I had never been with somebody who communicated so much. It was refreshing on one hand, and then it was also confronting on another because I was like, I've never put myself out there so much to another person. And so just the all those factors kind of played a role in bringing more awareness to my life.
So
Yeah.
so your partner asking you a bunch of questions, such as like personal questions, questions that open you up more, questions to make you question. What were these type of questions that they were asking you in order to kind of get you into self-reflect?
Really more so philosophical concepts, like having conversations about deeper topics other than, sports, daily life, job, the mundane things of life. He really opened my world to, I've always, had all of these thoughts myself around all sorts of different topics around like relationship dynamics and spirituality and, the list goes on and on. But again, going back to like all of the partners I was with didn't have the capacity to meet me there. So I went very internal and my world felt very internal. And I didn't know that I could really connect with another person that would meet me there. So it was really interesting the way it all played out.
I'm feeling like as you're telling me this, that you were also in a place or are in a place where you were ready for that. And by being ready for that, you're receptive to getting outside answers and questions to help kind of propel you to your journey where you're continuing and what doing with what you're doing today.
Yeah, absolutely. I had to be ready for it. It's like the saying, if you're not on the same frequency level of that which you desire, it's not there yet, right?
Right.
If something's coming to you, if a partner's coming into your life, somebody's coming into your life, so often we want to think like, oh, how do I deserve this? I don't deserve this. Like, what did I do? But really, if you weren't a match for it, it wouldn't be there.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
So then you started going inward and you started exploring this other self, this other part of you. And then
Mhm.
what happened after that?
Well, I would say in conjunction with that, we had many conversations around polyamory and around ethical non-monogamy, and I had never considered any of that. Like I didn't really even know what that was at the time.
Yeah.
But I remember just in the early stages, like my stomach would just be like churning and I'd be like, oh my God, is he implying that he wants this? This is crazy. Like, I don't even know what's going on. But there was something to that, right? Like the feelings that your body gets are not happenstance.
Exactly.
And so at that time, I, was kind of leaning into spirituality from a different perspective. I had left the church and I officially no longer identified as a Christian. And for me, that was like also a huge, big thing. And I was also exploring my sexuality and exploring this, just from even a hypothetical standpoint at this point in my relationship of what that would entail and why people do this and, is it actually ethical and like all the questions that come up with it. And it got me thinking like, okay, I don't have to, the beliefs that were put on me to live out, that is a choice. We have a choice to believe in the things that we want to believe in.
Oh, yeah.
Right? That had never occurred to me beforehand. It was always like, well, this is the truth. You can choose to believe it or not, but you're going to go to hell if you don't. And that's that to that. But really, if you choose to believe that you're not going to go to hell, then
Right.
that is
You're
the
not.
reality, right?
You're not going to hell.
Yeah, I'm not going to hell. Hallelujah.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, so we did end up starting to explore an open dynamic because it did appeal to both of us, even though there was so much like fear behind it. We were like, okay, well, we know that we value adventure, and we also value authenticity and being genuine and exploration for the sake of growth. And so we might as well, like, let's just try. And so 7 years later, we are still in that lifestyle, and we're engaged to marry, and we love each other more than ever. Thank you. And it has become just such a beautiful, blossoming thing for both of us, and not only for both of us, but for the people around us in our life who have seen through example that this can be achieved, and it can be achieved in a really beautiful, harmonious, and positive way.
When you're saying it can be achieved, what do you mean specifically by it? What can be achieved?
Being in an open dynamic.
Okay.
And, whatever term that you want to dive into, whether that is, polyamory or ethical non-monogamy, or monogamish is also a term, whatever it is, that it can be achieved in a great way where both people are able to still be themselves and explore for themselves, but come back together in union, knowing that love is expansive.
It is, yes.
Love does not shrink, and it does not isolate. So that is the belief we've really held on to as we navigate it.
Well, that's a really beautiful story. Thanks for sharing that. And it's really inspiring too, especially with this time and age. Oh my goodness. But as you were talking, I was thinking, well, I do have like kind of like an older generation sometimes listening to this podcast. So I was wondering if you could describe and explain what polyamorous means for those tuning in for the first time.
Yeah. So polyamory is the concept of love, amor, with multiple individuals. So monogamy is the structure that our society is based in. It's rooted with, you have one romantic partner, marriage is of course the thing. You get married to this partner, or you're just with one partner. And that is the only way that like life works as humans. And lo and behold, there are other options, right? I have worked with so many people who have come to me saying like that they've always had like a cheating problem, or that they've always, wondered what it would be like to be able to be with multiple people. And they didn't know that that was an option. So they held that in as something that's shameful, that is just like this inner dialogue and thought that never actually gets expressed. Mm-hmm. When in reality, maybe if they tried that way, it would actually be able to meet their needs, heal their shame, and allow them to live a lifestyle that is empowering for both parties, mm-hmm. all parties involved.
That's so true. It makes sense to me as well. There's my dad, for instance, My dad, I don't think he listens to my podcast, but so I think I can call him out here. My dad's always been a cheater, okay? And it's like he stayed married to my mom for 48 years, but I can admit that he wasn't committed the whole time. But had it been like this back in the 70s and 80s and polyamorous was more readily accepted or even heard of, perhaps my mother would have made the decision of whether or not this was a compatible partner for her because she's more monogamous. I think it opens up the opportunity to communicate with people, really figure out who your best partner is for you in the long term and in the long run, and for the best of everybody's highest good, actually, in that case. And then there's no shame, and then there's no guilt, and then there's no I'm going to hell feelings going on at the end.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. And that's not to say too that, just because somebody has a cheating problem means that they must be polyamorous, right? There's so many other factors that are
True.
involved too.
That's so true. Yes.
Right. Mainly self-love, might I add.
Right.
It's a self-love issue at the root, I believe, but I digress.
Self-love and maybe a lot of self-awareness as well. But I guess self-awareness, yeah, wow, yeah, that's actually really, really true. Sorry, Dad, didn't mean to call you out. But anyway, so tell us about how you help clients. So I can see here that you empower people and to become the most confident best self. And this is aside from polyamory. This is just people within their own skin being comfortable to be who they are and who they are not sure that they are. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. I do a lot of body work because I believe that everything starts within the body, and having the awareness starts within the body too, right? We tend to hide and numb away from our pain, and that is also disconnecting from our body at the same time because we don't want to feel certain emotions that are coming up, like shame, guilt, stuckness, just having that lack of self-love, insecurities around our body. So I really do a lot of embodiment work with my clients to bring them back into the awareness of their body first and foremost, and cultivate that sense of safety from within, right? Because so much of our anxieties and these, lower vibrational emotions that we experience are really just the manifestation of that disconnect. So coming back to, I am safe to feel these emotions.
Yeah, I love
It's
that.
okay for me to experience what's going on. And ironically, when I allow myself to just face these things going on, it neutralizes the energy, and you're able to move on with your life so much quicker than resisting, and it just keeps creeping back in.
So guide us on how you would come in. That I'll use myself, for instance. I mean, I no longer have these insecurities, but let's just take let's go back to how I possibly was about 5 years ago. Let's say I come to see you and I'm like, Elaine, I'm facing some challenges here. I'm not too happy with my body. I'm transgender, I used to be a female. There's some excess female looking parts of my body, and I also have a disability. I've got 2 stomas. I have a feeding tube. I've got a lot of scars, and I'm really fearful of being intimate with anybody because I feel like they're going to judge me, or I'm not going to be man enough, or that my disability is going to gross them out. And so I'd rather just not do anything with anybody at all. I'm here to see you because you're the first person I'm talking to about this. How can you help me?
Yeah. So I would say the first and foremost step here is understanding that intimacy with another person starts with becoming more intimate with yourself and really learning to accept your body and accept where you are at right now in your life's journey.
So self-intimacy, and what is self-intimacy? What does that look like?
Oh, it can look like so many things. It can look like actually being able to look at yourself in the mirror if that's a problem for you. If you have body dysmorphia, if you're looking in the mirror and you're just only seeing one thing, or if you can't even look at yourself in the mirror, starting with that would be a beautiful step. Taking a moment to do a body scan. So just sitting there and literally like envisioning a scanner going from head to toe, slowly down, scanning all of the sensations that are happening in your body, having that awareness of like, oh, I actually am having a little pain, in my stomach or in my lower back. We don't have the awareness sometimes because we're literally avoiding all of these feelings and emotions and physical pains that are coming through. So becoming more intimate with your body in that sense, and really coming back to your own sensuality. And what I mean by that is really tapping into your senses. Literally, that is what sensuality is.
True.
So practicing with your sense of smell, practicing with touching yourself and caressing yourself and giving yourself a massage, so on and so forth with the senses.
Kind of like taking salt, like taking a bath with like essential oils, kind of stuff like that.
Yeah.
So a lot of self time, a lot of me time.
A lot of me time. You got to have the me time. You got to have the time to be in stillness and reflect, because all of the answers come from those moments.
That's for sure. I learned that very loud and clear. That's for sure. And so how long do you typically work with a client until they tell you that they feel liberated, or how long does this usually go for?
Yeah, so I have different container lengths. Sometimes we work together for 6 weeks and they're like, that was just the booster I needed. Sometimes I work with people for 7 months. It really just depends on where the individual is at in their journey and how much time they feel that they need to be able to develop their own intuitive abilities and develop their own intimacy with self.
So I see that you thank you for that. You help your clients discover their true personal power. Is this what you mean by the true personal power?
Absolutely. Yeah. I believe that when we are able to truly develop a strong, loving, communicative relationship with ourselves, that is where the personal power stems from. Being able to, and this was interesting, you were telling me about your vocal journey before this, but being able to access and work on your voice, cultivating your voice. What does that even mean? And you hear a lot of this is their truth, or speak your truth.
Right.
And what really does that mean, right? That is just, what is your story? What are your opinions? What is going on in your world? Like, how do you perceive the world? Being able to vocalize those things, vocalize your boundaries, your needs, your desires. All of these things are absolutely crucial in cultivating your personal power as well.
I totally agree with you there, 100%.
Yeah.
So I love how you said this. When we can develop a strong, loving, communicative relationship with self. And when you first said that, I thought, well, how does somebody communicate with themselves? And I guess that's more like a self-reflection and just figuring out your own inner voice as well as your outer voice.
Right. Inner voice being having a reframe there of like our inner voice can default to negative so quickly.
Oh yeah.
It defaults to the criticism, the you're not good enough, like,
You're
oh,
not pretty enough. You're not good enough. Or look at
right,
those
right.
legs. Or
Oh,
yeah.
I can't believe it starts from even just like in the morning when your alarm goes off
Yeah.
and you are in bed for a little bit too long and then you get startled and you're like, oh, why did I do that? Like, no, that even alone, that is like the first thought that can flood in of negative self-talk. So just being mindful of all the little moments throughout the day, and shifting that into how can I have this be more loving toward myself? How can I be more compassionate toward myself in this moment? It really starts to shift the relationship there.
With yourself, to build a strong foundation with self.
Mm-hmm.
And so while you work through helping your clients release shame and insecurities, what is one of the biggest obstacle that you face, or one of the most common obstacles that you face with your clients in regards to shame and insecurities?
A big one is they feel that they don't deserve to receive the type of love that they really
Wow.
want to.
Wow. That's a big, that is huge, huh? My
Yeah,
goodness.
yeah. They feel that it's the worthiness wound. They don't feel like they are good enough for a beautiful, impactful, growth-oriented relationship, or they believe it doesn't actually exist
Or
because,
that it's just never going to happen for them, period.
yeah, yeah, or their worldview is like people suck, everybody is this sort of way, everybody either ghosts or nobody cares about each other anymore, or whatever the belief is, and
Yeah.
so they live life through that lens.
Right. So how do you help shift that belief? Well, I mean, let's say you get most of your clients are females. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I have worked with other genders as well, but mainly female.
Let's say that you get a client and they're coming in and they're just like, you know what? I'm okay being alone. I really don't want to be with anybody, because it's not ever going to happen for me. But I'm hoping you can just help me um, figure out my own personal power. And when you hear something like that, are you just like, no, hold up a minute. I am going to help you find someone. There is someone for you. Or do you allow them to just talk and feel what they're feeling and then kind of unfold naturally what it is that's deep down inside? I mean, how do you work with somebody like that?
Yeah, so
I'm sure it happens. Yeah.
it's yes, and for me and my style of how I work, it's a beautiful balance of meeting somebody where they're at
Yeah.
and allowing them to truly feel heard and seen with where they're at.
Mhm.
So I don't automatically go, oh no, that's not the case. Like you can definitely have the person of your dreams.
Yeah.
Um, because that would just go in one ear and out the other anyway.
Yeah. Because
Right.
you're not really validating how they're feeling at that current moment.
Right. Yeah. So I if that were to happen, I would go, okay, great. Well, let's just start with where you're ready to start with at, like
Yeah.
relationship with self, because that's really the root of it anyways.
It really is.
Once we uncover things there and work on the subconscious beliefs and
Right.
dive in, you will see for yourself, right? I'm not going to tell you the answers. You have to feel the answers and know them from within.
So tell us a success story, or I'm sure you've got many, but whichever one, first one that pops up to your head. One
Oh
that
my
came in kind of complicated and dark and then left all shiny and bright with rainbows all around.
Oh, I have I'm like literally thinking of a conglomerate of stories
Yeah, I'm sure.
right now. So it's really interesting, although I am a sex and relationship coach, that that's sort of like the door sign, the door sign for people to come in and that they want help in that area specifically. And through working together, the outcome is usually so much bigger than that, right?
Wow, that's beautiful.
So I have really helped people with every area of their life. But the common themes are healing and really working through anxiety to feel more grounded and stable in their body, improving their confidence. So confidence is a huge, 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 huge one. Confidence both in themselves and just how they show up in their daily life. Funny enough, I've helped people heal their relationship to money. A lot of people who come to me are like, I kind of like feel so much shame sexually. And then when we get down to it, it's like, oh my gosh, my relationship that the relationship style that I had, my anxious attachment that I had in relationship is the same relationship dynamic that I have with money.
Whoa.
Anxious attachment. And so healing, you get to heal both at the same time because
That's incredible.
Peace, inner peace from within yourself, and that exudes in every area of your life.
Wow, that's beautiful and powerful. No wonder you love doing what you're doing. I would love that too.
Yeah.
My goodness. That's
great.
really beautiful, Elaine.
Yeah. I help, I think we discussed this earlier, but I help a lot of people create and develop their intuitive sense, right? So with that, it is helping them to cultivate a deeper sense of their own spiritual connection, whatever that looks like for them. And so on and so forth. There's just so much.
How would you explain like a spiritual connection if somebody says that they're not spiritual?
If they're not spiritual, then that's fine. I am not here to convince them otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
But many people often feel that even if they don't believe in, God or something specific, that there is still something to all of this, right? We are all energy. We're all like physically created of particles and energy. So I talk a lot as well about like the quantum field and physics and all of that. So it's like if they can't get down with the spiritual lingo, then we can just talk about it from a scientific perspective, because I also came from that background as well. I was going into the medical field before I did all of this. So yeah, it's really cool. I can just connect with anybody with where they're at.
Elaine, you're doing an incredible job, and I'm really glad that we connected. I'm just really grateful that you're sharing all of your positive wisdom, light, everything that you've gained, everything that you've learned to help clients just become their better versions of themselves in all areas. Where can our viewers or watchers and our listeners find you if they need your services?
Yay, yeah. I am mainly on Instagram and TikTok.
Okay.
So both have the same handle name. It's just Elan Zelenka, ELAN.ZELEN.
I called you Elaine. I'm so sorry.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. I have all different variations coming at me.
So Elan_Zelenka.
Dot.
Oh, dot. Sorry about that. And that's on IG and TikTok.
Yeah. And then I have my website as well. So.
And what's your website?
elanzelenka.com.
Oh, perfect. Awesome. Elan Zelenka, everybody on A Little Less Fear podcast. Embody a pleasure-led life. Be safe to feel your emotions. Start being intimate with yourself. Come back to your sensuality. Tap into your senses. And remember that you deserve to receive because you are worthy. These are incredible words that I wrote down. That's going to help me and everybody around me. Thank you so much, Elan, for being on A Little Less Fear podcast. I wish your business incredible, more success, and so much love, light, and happiness with you and all of your loved ones.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. Thank you all so much for all the listeners, the viewers, the watchers, and the subscribers. If you have not yet subscribed, go ahead and do so. And please share the story, share this journey, share this podcast with your friends and your family. You can find information on my book, details about my book on my website at www.alittlelessfear.com, where you will also find my freelance poetry that I write. It's visual poetry with video for businesses. And for social marketing, if you are interested, please send me an email at alittlelessfear@gmail.com. Again, my website is www.alittlelessfear.com. And if you'd like to be on the show, you can also send me an email, or if you have any questions or comments, at alittlelessfear@gmail.com. Feel free to also check out my YouTube channel, also titled A Little Less Fear Podcast, where you will catch all of these episodes on video on YouTube. Thank you all so much. I love you. Thanks for your support. Take care and keep shining on. Rock on. I love you.